Hi everybody, and thank you for joining me today. So finishing up a Goron link here and working some on Link's original form in the center. Working a bit on his tunic here today. And then yeah, a little bit into finishing Goron Link's belly there. So yeah, we are past 75% complete, so woohoo. Yeah, this is stitching up quickly, and there's quite a lot of bigger blocks coming up possibly in this session, so I should make quite a lot of progress, I think, today, whether on or off the camera. Yeah, so we're continuing to get little tiny dustings of snow, even though I'm calling it spring, but yeah, it's just enough to remind us that we're not entirely done with snow yet. Yeah, it's hard this time of year. People want to put in their summer gardens, but you can't yet. Either that you need a greenhouse or you need to buy a lot of buckets and stuff to cover up your plants if it gets cold. I've seen that a lot. People will have a whole line of buckets, upside down buckets going up towards their front walkway, and it's because they planted flowers and then more frost came, so they had to cover them up to try to protect them from the cold so they don't die. Oh, yeah. Yeah, now that is something I haven't had a lot of success at, growing things. My dad is good at it. Yeah, he used to put in summer gardens. It was great. Tons of fresh green beans. We'd go and eat them right off the vine sometimes. Yeah, fresh tomatoes. We had broccoli and cauliflower one year too. We planted those. Yeah, and then my sister's dog managed to get into it and dig some of it up, so yeah, my dad was not happy. Yeah, that dog was a rascal. She somehow managed to tear a hole in the linoleum floor right in the center of it, and there was like no seam or like anything sticking up, so I don't know how she even got it started. It wasn't like, you know, she ripped it from a corner or something where it was sticking up. She just somehow managed to like get it started. Yeah. Yeah, I like dogs, but I don't have one because they're more work than I want to do, so yeah. So I haven't really stuck with the diagonal here. It's kind of been sort of all over the place in the shape, as you can see. It went pretty straight in one area. But yeah, like I always say, it's a rough guide for me. Just follow the colors and slowly grow my way out from that top left corner down towards the bottom right, and fill in as I go. Yeah, I think I managed something like 800 stitches yesterday, so that was really nice. Love if I could do that every day. Yeah, some people are even faster than me. I've seen some who do over 1,000 a day, and they're not tent stitches, they're full cross stitches. So, because yeah, as soon as I saw someone had done like 1,200 in one day, I thought, oh, I'm betting they were doing the, you know, half cross stitch, the tent stitch, but nope, they were doing full cross. Like, wow. So you're just really quick. that was like, my grandma's a knitter, and she taught me, and watching her cast on stitches was just like jaw-dropping. Hands were practically a blur. And she did the long tail cast on, which is, in my opinion, even harder to do. And yeah, I tried it so many times and I couldn't get the hang of it, so I gave up and I did cable cast on, or provisional cast on, which is where you cast on a piece of waste thread that you unzip later, so you can what's the word? So you can like undo it and stitch in the other direction, so you can make things seamless. Yeah, so I use those. But yeah, my grandma with the long tail cast on, like I'd be just watching her, and she's just like, chuk, 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 where each stitch was like, whoa. Yeah. I mean, granted, yes, she had been knitting for like 40 years by that point, but still, it was, yeah, pretty darn impressive. Yeah, we all got sweaters all the time. And then after grandkids were all grown, she started making baby sweaters and hats for preemies at the hospital. So yeah, it's really nice. Yeah, well, I made baby blankets for nieces and nephews when they were born, and yeah, it was actually really sweet. My cousin recently shared the memory of it and said that, yeah, her daughter doesn't let anyone use that blanket. She uses it to with her dolls, which is like, oh, that's so sweet. Yeah, it was I made one, it had hearts, lacy hearts in it. So yeah, it's definitely a favorite pattern. Pardon me. Yeah, nobody's had kids in my family for a while. Because, yeah, for a while it was sort of a baby boom there, and it was like, oh my gosh, I can't knit fast enough to keep up. Yeah, my son got a few. Well, it gets so cold here in the winter. When he was still in the little baby, infant, carrier, you'd want to cover it with a blanket in the winter because it was so cold. And I remember one time I was trying to put the blanket on, and it was like, pulling on it. I'm like, oh, it's stuck on something. What's it stuck on? I look in, and my kiddo has grabbed it in his little baby fist and won't let go. I was like, oh, it's stuck on his hand. Yeah, they do say you have to be careful about covering the seat or the stroller in the summer, because it can actually get very hot inside. I saw a news story they did about it. They put a thermometer inside to show that it could get, in the summer, a lot of people would want to do it for shade, not realizing that actually it traps the heat inside and they can get quite overheated. So you have to be careful of that, yeah. Better off to buy a proper actual, like, shade canopy that's intended for the purpose of not a blanket, so that it doesn't trap the heat inside, because, yeah, you don't want heat stroke. That's for sure. Okay, so I did those, and then those. If I can color them all in. Yeah, so here's some more of the Goron Lynx belly. So I'm going to try and make it past the center point of the bottom here by the end of the month, which I think is doable. Because then I'm hoping to finish it next month. I'm thinking it won't even take the whole month. We shall see how it works out. Okay, so I'm going to add another thread here. As I said, some bigger blocks here, so you can see, yeah. Quite a few in a row I can do here without closing anything in, so that'll fill that up. I think I've already stitched over that grid line with the other line of stitches, so that's fine. Sometimes that happens. Luckily, I've never had a problem with removing the grid line, even if it's been stitched over for, you know, 50 or 60 stitches. It still slides right out, so. So I have my Firefly piece, my Ocarina of Time Stained Glass Zelda piece. Those are gridded and started. As well as my Peacocks, The Marvelous Garden by Heaven and Earth Designs. That's gridded and begun. And then I have Deer Creek is gridded because that's the one where I messed it up and started Marvelous Garden, but with the wrong color. I used the 01 white tin instead of the white. So I ended up saving that piece because the Deer Creek, also by Heaven and Earth Designs, is smaller. So that way I decided I can turn the fabric and cut off the mistake. And I didn't have to pick it out because, yeah, it was over 10,000 stitches. And then that way the gridding, all that gridding work I did wasn't wasted. So I have those 4 patterns, and then after that, I'm going to decide if I'm going to continue working on 14 or if I'm going to invest in some 18, and then that way I could buy some that's already gridded and I won't have to sew on my grid lines, and I'll see how I like that. Because the one thing with the already gridded fabric is that it's not between the stitches. It's like the gray is marking one of the line of stitches, so you have to decide if that's 1 or 10 and stick to it. Yeah, and I can be bad at remembering that stuff. I remember every time I wanted to double a recipe, I actually had to sit there and write a little scrap piece of paper with the doubled amounts on it, because otherwise I would double the first few ingredients, forget that I was doubling it, and so I'd end up with like too much butter and my cookies would be, yeah, not good. Yeah, that was one lady I worked with who said somehow she managed to forget putting in the flour in her cookies. And she said, so they spread out so much, they almost look like some stained glass or something because there was all butter and sugar, you know, and like no flour. Funny. So maybe you could pretend you tried to do that way, you know, you were inventing a fancy glass cookie or something. Yeah, my sister-in-law said she tried a new recipe once and it didn't work. Like, you know, a lot of cookies do spread, but she said like these, even with leaving, you know, several inches between them, they still completely spread and became one big blob of a cookie. And her husband ate both pans of it. She's like, oh my gosh, you know, you ate all that? And he said, what? I only ate 2 cookies. Yeah, it's funny I say that sometimes cooking can feel like a real chore, but I enjoy baking more, and like thinking, why is that different? You know, like it's still food. And I said, maybe it's because baking, I don't have to do it every day. You know, I could do it when the mood strikes, so it's fine. But, you know, cooking, well, we do have to eat every day. So I have to cook almost every day, or at least plan ahead, right? To make enough so there's leftovers. Yeah, I often said it's not the cooking itself, it's the mental load of all the planning that I hate the most. Even the cleanup, which I don't love, but, you know, I can do it on autopilot. I don't have to really think about what I'm doing. So, plus, I have a dishwasher. Yeah, when I was a kid growing up, dishes were my chore and we did not have a dishwasher, so yeah. Washing dishes for a family of 4 by hand every day. Not my idea of a great time. Yeah, I had a friend in high school who said thought dishwashers were a waste of time because, you know, you still have to load and unload them. And I'm like, okay, but have you done washing all the dishes by hand for your whole family for years? She's like, well, no. And I'm like, yeah, there you go. It's just, it does help, you know. And I said, it's nice. So if you have, you know, a couple of plates and stuff and not enough to really run a load, you just put them in the dishwasher, close the door, and you don't have to see them anymore. You know, when it's by hand, they're sitting in the sink and then you can see them, or you've got to wash them and wash up just those few all the time. It's, yeah, big pain. So, okay, so we're going to carry this over. And I'm actually going to pin stitch here to tack it down first before I park and unthread. Yeah. When it's a fairly long carry, I like to do that just to keep it more secure. Okay. Somebody's putting out their garbage cans already. I guess they don't want to forget it for tomorrow. Yeah, I've done that before, that's for sure. Yeah, they have 2 trucks that go around. So one does the landfill garbage and one does the compostable garbage. But in the winter, they only collect the compostable one every 2 weeks. So yeah, if you miss it, you got to wait another 2 weeks for it to be picked up again. But I guess the idea is in the summer, it needs to be every week because, you know, people are cutting their grass and such, and they got to put the clippings somewhere. So, but yeah, in the winter, everything's covered in snow, so it's only, you know, kitchen scraps and stuff. And it all freezes too, so. Yeah, my mother-in-law actually composts and keeps it because she likes to garden, so yeah, then it gives her good, rich soil to use in her garden. Yeah, so I said throwing things away in their house is not a simple matter because they've got several different, because some are compostable, but no, she doesn't put in the compost, and then some things are for her compost, and then, yeah, Then there's recycling, and then there, yeah, so it's not just a case of, okay, where's the garbage can, and throw it away. Come upwards a bit to fill in so then I can carry on that color there, that gray color, and not close anything in. See, I have some color, some of these color parked at the bottom. So I'm gonna see how long they are, if I'm gonna sort of, oh goodness, if I'm gonna sort of carry them all the way up and back or not. Depends again, how long they are, whether I decide to do that. Yeah, I was saying in other videos, I use a meal subscription box, so that takes some of the mental load off. But whoever wrote those recipes really likes to keep their oven up super hot. Like everything they tell you to cook it at 450 degrees. And yeah, I generally lower it to 425 because, yeah, I've had things burn or very close to burn. So, and then they like their garlic practically raw. They always have you throw it in like the last 30 seconds, but that's not cooked enough for me. I prefer to throw it in at the same time as the onion and saute it. I just, yeah, otherwise I find it too strong. So yeah, I do follow those, but I kind of tweak them a bit to my own specs as well. Yeah, this is fairly long, so I'm gonna carry this way up. So I'm gonna carry this all the way up there, and back should use up this thread, I should think. Actually, I won't do that one there because that would close that in. I'll use the other thread to do that. Brown fibers just getting you don't make it go to the wrong side right away, it can get pulled along with your working thread, and then you can end up with streaks of a different color kind of outlining the tops of these stitches, and you don't want that. Especially important if, say, you're doing a really light color right next to a dark one. Yeah, if those fuzzies get pulled through it, it can really cause issues. I discovered that when I was working some white, and I'd done the black outline first and then the white after, and yeah, I kind of regretted that, because trying to keep the black fibers out of there was almost an impossible task. I'm just gonna check how long this one is too. Okay, that's a long one part down there. Okay. So I'm probably gonna have 2 threads coming along these colors, and they may meet in the middle or they may branch off. I'll see what I do when I get there. Okay, so this one is done. So tie these off. Then I'm gonna come back to the top here. So my threads don't always travel downward, sometimes they travel up. It just sort of depends. Before I do these, I'm going to try check those. Okay, 38, 37. See if we'll hit any zeros today, but I don't think so, because a lot of the colors being used in this lower left area are also used in the lower right area at the other edge, so yeah, probably not. Once we get all of the main link done, then I think we're going to start zeroing out a whole bunch of stuff. And then Deku Link will be the last one. Okay, it'll be a while till I get to that. So, unthreaded. Okay, so now let's take a look at this thread here and how long it is. Yeah, it's not terribly. Okay, so I'm going to attach another one from the top and come down and meet it at the bottom. Okay, 37.40. Yeah, we have a few branching off here. That's okay. Oh, goodness. Pardon me. Oh, man. Alarm clock this morning went off right in the middle of a dream. And I was actually dreaming that it was time to get up, and I was having a really hard time getting up. And then the alarm actually went off. I was like, oh, come on. Oh, it's like the worst. You think you've already done it. I remember there's a Calvin and Hobbes. Yeah, where, you know, his mom comes, kisses him, time to get up, and he's all struggling through getting dressed and breakfast, all exhausted. And then Calvin, it's time to get up, and he realizes he just dreamed his whole morning routine, and now he's got to do it again. Like, oh, we've all been there, right? Yeah, introduced our son to Calvin and Hobbes when he was about 8 or 9, and I ended up making him a knitted Hobbes stuffy for his 12th birthday. Yeah, he quite liked it. Because, yeah, they never made any official Calvin and Hobbes merchandise. He never wanted to do the merchandising for some reason. So, yeah, any Calvin and Hobbes stuff you get is a knockoff. Yeah, my husband, for a while when he was a teenager, on his car, he had a back window decal that was like Calvin sticking his tongue out at people. I'm like, wow. So you like to live dangerously, tick people off. Mine is kind of wonky, but that's okay. Well, I didn't count perfectly where they come up and down, so sometimes, yeah, they could end up a little funny. Just need to pay attention, that's all. Yeah, like I said, bigger blocks of color here. This goes quicker. So I'm gonna carry a ways down and back up. All right, we'll see if this can cross all of these before I run out or not? I think we can. In fact, I think it'll be enough to get a few more stitches out of this. So park that there. I'll add a new thread for up higher. Then this one. It's very uneven. There we go. So yeah, I don't usually cross as I go, but this time I want the thread to end up in a different place than where I started. So this time I will. Okay. So go further to the left and oh gee, I thought this one and this one were the same symbol at first glance. Thank you, Pattern Keeper. I mean, they're clearly not now that I'm paying more attention, but yeah, if I'd been working on paper, I might have mixed that up. Let's see, this color, yeah, one is purpley and one is really not, so depending, that could have made a really big difference and looked funny. I don't like having to pick out stitches later after discovering they're the wrong color, especially if they've been stitched all around. That's not fun. I did finally buy myself some more seam rippers, so I haven't had to use them yet, but it makes it a little easier when you need to pick out one particular stitch. Oh, darn. There we go. Yeah, for every big block of color, there's often little bits around the edges that are just single stitches of a color, so kind of breaks it up there. Pete's sake, I did it again. Man, that's irritating. Now this is the area where two parts of the picture meet. Go around link and then the main link. So yeah, there's going to be a lot of colors in this area as the two outlines kind of intersect there. Ooh, my pardon. Yeah, this is, would be long enough to do one more stitch, but it's quite a ways away, so it's not enough to carry to that stitch and do it. So we'll just end this thread off then. Okay, so I did all that just so I can do all of those at once. 3860. Oh, goodness. There. Struggling to put my envelope back in the box. Closing in on 76% done. Shouldn't take too much more. Less than about 60 stitches, I would guesstimate. It's definitely doable. Look at that, my needle actually came up between those two strands. Oh, goodness. And now, went around my magnet too. Okay, let's just unthread it. Yeah. My gosh. Yeah, the more I try to untangle this, the worse of a knot I'm going to tie, so. Yeah. That point, easier to just unthread it so I can untangle it without the needle attached. all the way up here. Oh yeah, once again I have 2 threads, so actually what I'm going to do is I'm going to work my way from the lower one until I run out, and then work my way down from the top one. Before I do that color, I have to do this color first, so I don't close it in. My goodness, there. Okay, and again, one thread, because it's going to be a while till I get to that color. Yeah, this one's pretty long. Oh, goodness. Went around my magnet there. One hazard with the button magnets, they're nice for wrapping the threads around to keep them, you know, tamed, but then, yeah, you don't want your working thread to wrap around it, or that'll make a big old mess. End up ending off the thread that's higher up, because yeah, it's less of a carry to continue with this one, and yeah, so that seems more efficient than tying it off and carrying further down from the upper part thread, so that's what I'm going to do. There, and then yeah, this one, yeah, it's pretty long too, but as I have 2 in this area, I only need 1. So tie this off and save those leftover pieces for later. Okay, quite a few threads here at the bottom. Okay, let's see. How long is this one? Not that long. So I'm going to use this one, stitch it and carry it down there, and I'm going to make a new thread and carry it upwards. Let's see if we've got a medium length piece or not. Nope. So that's all right. Now, given where that thread was parked and the position of the other stitches around it, I was going to need 2 threads either way. So yeah, I think this is one of the Goron's legs there. And his other one's going to be over here or something. Although it might be hidden by the other link. We'll see. I haven't looked at the mock-up in a while, so I'm not completely certain. So like I said, I'm not always diagonal because of course his belly is shaped like this, so I just followed the shape of the colors there on the belly. Make sure I color those in so I don't forget that I stitched them. 75.9. Oh yeah, we will definitely reach 76 in this session. Okay, right, and then this one that I was going to carry the other way. Get that going. Part it there. There we go. In the upper one. Okay, again, I'm going to have threads going in different directions. Okay, well, yeah, we've got stitches scattered all over the place here. But fortunately, I also have some shorter pieces too. All right, I'm just gonna check that one that's parked there, see how long it is. Okay. So like I say, I don't worry about making leftover pieces because there's always a place to use them later. So I'm going to do that one there. And then park it. And another short piece, I believe, up here. Yeah. So I'll do this one here. It's by itself. Yeah, just sort of ended up doing a lot of working from the bottom up because of the shape of his belly there. Yeah. Yeah, so I had someone say this method is kind of like doing a puzzle, which, yeah, it's definitely how I think of it. Keeps me interested and keeps my brain working. Few threaded needles here, we'll see how it works out. Okay, how long is this piece? Not very. Okay, so I know what I'm going to do with this. I'm just going to do these 5 here, and then I'll start a new thread from the other side of this color block and work my way downwards. But yeah, there was enough here to do 5 stitches, so I figured why not. I like to use up as much as I can before I discard it. I think we may not see his other leg. It may be hidden behind the other link figure in the center. We'll see. Like I said, I haven't looked at the mock-up for a while, so I'm not entirely certain. I actually can do that in a minute. So. Okay, so if you mock up, yeah, we don't really see his other leg. Yeah, it's hidden behind Link's arm there. That's what I thought. Yeah, so. Okay. Yeah, not really matters. I trust the pattern, but I do kind of like sometimes to just peek at the mock-up and see exactly what part I am stitching of the picture. Oh yeah, I definitely have a lot of needles on threads because I'm running low on my needle minder here, so we'll see if I need to reset or what. Okay, so okay, well, I can tie off this one and get my needle back because yeah, all my needles are now threaded. I have no spares left on my needle minder. Oh, don't do that. Not right at the end. Come on. Oh, it's a little knot. Yeah, but there. Yeah, I really did not want to end off and start another thread for a half of a stitch. That would be really annoying. So they worked with the knot. Okay. Where did I put my... Ah, there's my scissors. And keep them in my lap, but sometimes they fall. I have to be careful. I actually got myself in the meaty part of my side of my hand one time. That did not feel good. It wasn't really bad. I didn't even really need a bandage, but it didn't feel nice, that's for sure. Yeah. Okay, so now we get to do a few in a row. Do this one next because then I can tie it off and get my needle back. See, I have so many threaded that now that's kind of a priority to try and some threads off and get them back. Let's just see the length of the other one. Yeah, it should be enough. So. So I'm going to carry this one over to the right. And I'm going to start a new one for the stitch along the left edge there. So I'm going to start a longer one there. Because, yeah, there's a lot more stitches in this area to do. Yeah. Again, it branches off a fair amount, so we're going to end up with several, I should think. Oh yeah, look at that. We are at 76% exactly. 227 stitches completed so far today. Actually, maybe a while before I get to that one, so I'm gonna unthread it, I think. There we are. Okay. Another thread that can be completed. Oh, geez. Oh, okay. I'll be right back. Okay, we're back. And all that just to get a auto dialer with a scam call. Oh, dear. Hi, this is your credit card company. Yeah, because that's really how they identify themselves. And they don't use a real person to call you. Like, not falling for it. Yeah, I had one who was actually a person saying, you know, did you make, you know, X amount of a purchase in, you know, some other country? I said, no. They said, oh, okay, you know, your card's been, we'll get you a new card and all this stuff. And then he starts asking me for other personal information, like, you know, what's your date of birth? And I'm like, okay, that doesn't sound legit. And so hung up, called the credit card company myself, and yeah, they had not called me. So yeah, that one was a more clever one. They fooled me for a few minutes, but I didn't give them any information. So yeah. So my company said, well, if you didn't give them any personal info, I wouldn't worry too much. They just said, you know, we'll put a note on your card to be extra, on your account to be extra vigilant about potential, you know, fraudulent charges. But that was, oh gee, I think a year ago, and it's been fine. So yeah, it's a phishing, they call it, right? Yeah. Yeah, if they start asking you for things like your PIN or your date of birth or stuff like that, yeah, you can, it's probably a scammer. And then, yeah, it's a good idea to just instead hang up, call them yourself so that you know you've actually got the credit card company, right? Yeah. Man, we went through a while where our number kept getting stolen. It was really frustrating. Like, our credit card company was really good about recognizing, yeah, that wasn't a, correct charge, and immediately freezing the card and sending a new one and all that. But so we never had to pay any charges that weren't ours, but it was still such a pain, because anything that you have like an automatic billing somewhere, now you have to fill out an entirely new number and, all that stuff. Anywhere that you had like a subscription to or whatever, right? And and then, yeah, you finally get that all dealt with, and then like a couple weeks later it happens again. I was like, come on. So I don't know. I heard one time that it was like a certain card reader at a certain store had been somehow compromised. So anyone who used it got their number stolen. And so maybe it was like a store that we used a lot. But yeah, that was really frustrating. There was one story I remember. Somebody managed to put a reader inside the actual ATM reader. So yeah, they got a lot of people's personal info that way. It was a real nightmare to untangle that, but yeah. Oh, pardon me. Yeah, and I actually just had to order a replacement card because my chip is not working. So I can't tap to pay anything. And even with the inserting the card is sometimes iffy. So yeah, time for a new one. Yeah, it was interesting because it said, you can signal to a server with pretending to make a signature as a way that you want the credit card machine. But it's like, I cannot remember the last time I had to actually sign a credit card slip. Years ago. Yeah. It's all tap or pin now. It said, but I'm old enough, I was telling my son, the reason the credit card has actual raised numbers is because they used to make an imprint of it with the carbon paper. And I said, yeah, I still remember that shug shug sound. Yeah, they said like sounds of, technology change. And it's kind of funny because like our cameras on our phones will make the shutter click sound, even though there's no physical shutter anymore, right? Some of them even have the animation of a shutter closing and opening, even though, yeah, there isn't for those cameras anymore. So yeah, it's kind of funny. Or kids have never heard dial tones because they've never used a landline. We still have a landline. Well, technically it's actually like an internet, like it's the same number as our old landline was, but it's like an internet number. So it's only $10 a month. So we kept it because in a lot of places that's the only contact info they had for us. So yeah, but even now with our phone is cordless. So even then there's no dial tone because you type in the number and then press, start or send. And so you don't have to wait for a dial tone. You used to with the, old ones where you picked up the receiver. Said, yeah, or that sound it made when you had left it off the hook for too long. Yeah, it was funny. They had all sorts of ones of, things from your childhood kids these days won't understand. And they had, please be kind and rewind. Or I said, you have a collect call from Mom, pick me up at the mall. Because, yeah, you didn't have a quarter to make the phone call. So you just pretended you were making a collect call. And then, yeah, they quickly say back, okay, come get you, or whatever, yeah. If it was an automated one, if you got an actual operator, you were kind of hooped. But, yeah, if you got the automated one, then you could just, instead of where you're supposed to say your name, say a really, really fast message. My husband says he remembers saying, out of gas, and then the park name where he had run out of gas, and then, yeah. And then they decline the charges, but then they know to come bring him a jerry can of gas. Yeah, because he said he had his old car, one of his very first, the fuel gauge was faulty, so it would look like you still had a half a tank of gas sometimes when you were running on fumes. So yeah, you know, and he said I should have got in the habit of carrying, you know, a jerry can of gas with me in the trunk just in case, but you know, he didn't. So yeah. Oh man, I remember when people were just being nuts about gas and they were trying to put it in all sorts of like unapproved containers. Oh, there was one, my sister had a video of a lady who put it in plastic grocery bags. And, you know, she said, look at it leaking. And I said, oh, but she double bagged it. You know, I can't believe that didn't work. You know, she said, yeah. And she even tied, you know, 2 knots in the top. Like, oh, guys, do you want to go up in flames? Because that's a really good way to do it. There's a reason why they say to only put it in approved containers. Because, yeah, it's very dangerous, you know. Just takes somebody going by and tossing a cigarette butt out of the window and, you know, kaboom. Yeah, plus they say you can only store it for so long even in an approved container before it starts to break down and it will no longer be usable, so. Yeah, I don't let my car go below a third, especially in the winter. You never know when you're going to get stuck somewhere. So yeah, we had one time just a sudden whiteout just appeared. Like I was driving down the highway and within a few seconds, I went from being able to see, you know, 100 feet to being able to see maybe 3 feet in front of me. It was absolutely wild. So we ended up stuck in a parking lot, just idling, sort of waiting for a break in the storm to get home. Yeah, like I was afraid to even leave the car to walk into the store to get stuff because it was such a whiteout that I was afraid if there were any vehicles traveling, they wouldn't see us until it was too late to stop. So it was like, yeah, we don't really need bread that badly. I'll come home and make some. Yeah, it was wild too because we sat in the parking lot. Luckily, we didn't have to wait too long. It was about 20 minutes before there was a break in the storm. But even then, there had been such a wind drift of snow building up around my wheels that I actually had to kind of rock the car back and forth to get out, to break free of it. Yeah, because it blown right up against sort of the axles and frozen. Oh, it was wild. Yeah, and then like as soon as there was any break, I was, okay, we're going to drive home and just, you know, pray that that break in the storm holds long enough for us to get home. Fortunately, we were only about 10 minutes from home, so yeah. Yeah, there were a lot of abandoned cars up on sidewalks and stuff. People who had tried to drive in the whiteout condition, and yeah, it was not working. Okay. Yeah, so back to a bit more confetti here. Yeah, I usually like to keep blankets in my car too, just in case if there was ever a stranded and no gas situation. Yeah, it might be important, you know, flashlight, bottles of water. Although the problem with bottled water here is it'll freeze, so yeah. Yes, and then they said you have to be careful with things like hand sanitizer in the summer because if it gets too hot, they can actually catch on fire or explode because of the alcohol content in them. So yeah. Yeesh. Yeah, here it doesn't get that hot, I find, but yeah, you do have to be cautious of that. Okay, another one I can tie off. That was one I did not leave threaded. And I probably won't again once I park it. So this one's really short. I don't normally leave it threaded, but I knew I was coming right back to it. Yeah, after I did these 3 stitches above it, so that's why I bothered to do that. Otherwise, there usually isn't much point in leaving a thread that long with the needle on it. Needle will just fall off. Okay, so I filled all this in just so I could do all these stitches in a row. Not have to stop and park. Yeah. one I can end. So far I did not need to reset because, yeah, I was able to start ending off threads and get my needles back. Okay, so many pin stitches in this area. This one I'm just gonna draw along the back. It's kind of running out of spots to pin stitch. Okay, and another one that can be ended off. Sometimes in high confetti areas you can end up with a pin stitch in almost every square. Ooh. Yeah, I generally don't like to do pin stitches in the horizontal threads. I don't know, it just doesn't work as well for me for some reason. In the vertical threads it closes up nicely over them. And then, yeah, I find with the horizontal ones it doesn't as well. For some reason, I have no idea why. Work up here a bit. I mean, either way, they're all covered up as long as you don't pin stitch a dark color under, say white. You shouldn't have a problem. Okay. There we are. That one's really uneven. Yes, we did quite a long area here today. Like I often say, diagonal-ish, not really diagonal. Yeah. It's kind of following the curve of Goron Link's belly there. Okay, let's see. I think we may take a break soon. So I'm going to go all the way back down here again. and work my way back out. Okay. Closing in on 300 stitches done. So maybe that'll be our stopping point. We shall see. Okay, and then we'll do 2 more and be at a nice even 300. Okay, cool. Nice even number to stop at, 300. That was a very productive session. So as usual, thank you so much for joining me today and hope to see you here again another time. All right, thanks everyone. Bye.